the Agriculture Subcommittee, Natural Resources Subcommittee. Today's March 2nd, it's 5:40. And I think Kristen Flynn is busy with amendments for the bill we just voted. Oh no, Kristen's right here. So let's jump right into Kristen's bills. That would start House Bill 249, the hemp limitation. Kristen, what's the news on that?
Yes, so the sponsor submitted a letter to withdraw the bill to the committee today.
Okay, so he's withdrawing it. So we don't have the fun of voting it down. Okay, so, but we do have the fun of checking it off our list. Okay, so let's go right to preservation of ag land, House Bill 860. This is the goal. Preserve ag land in the state at 1,030,000 acres. And the resolution from 02 expires in 2022. The bill adds MAT. I see Steve McHenry is here. Steve, what's the name of the program that we're thinking of adding?
Yes, the Maryland Farm Bureau has requested that the next generation farmland acquisition program be added to the list of programs that help to purchase easements and support the continuation of farmland forever. The Next Gen program actually has two categories. The original program,
Hey,
which
Steve, I've got requests for other amendments on this bill now.
yes,
So what I think we're going to do is we're not going to act on this amendment today, but if everybody heard the name of the program, and you should have the amendment, and I think we'll do that next week unless somebody raises a problem or an issue. Is Maura out there? Maura Cyphers?
I'm here in the dark.
Maura, you have some issues you want us to hear about this bill?
Yeah, I represent Merrick, the Mid-Atlantic Renewable Energy Coalition, and also American Clean Power, which is an array of renewable energy developers and manufacturers and companies all along the supply chain. I think, they have come across concerns when primarily just developing utility scale solar for the most part with local governments. And so just wanted to make sure that the bill is true to the initial goal and not codifying an additional million reserved in productive ag land. And I think even something simple as uncodified language that clarifies and just, I think, at least speaking from my own perspective, land use, I think priorities and needs are sort of changing, especially if you think about it in a continuum since 2002 to now. And we have a pretty ambitious RPS standard to meet. So we just want to make sure that those goals are jointly kind of encapsulated in this bill, and that, you're continuing on, I think, Delegate Gilchrist with the intent and purpose of the bill, but not setting aside an additional 1 million acres of land.
Okay, we don't want to interfere with the renewable portfolio standard, and I don't think the bill does. Jerry Clark, are you waving to be recognized?
Yeah, when you get a chance.
Yeah, go ahead.
What would be to matter with preserving another 1 million acres? I mean, what's better for the environment than 1 million acres of trees and farmland and crops and cover crops to keep runoff from running into our creeks and rivers in the Chesapeake Bay?
Yeah, Delegate Clark, it's.
Yeah. I mean, if it's in land preservation and the farmers being paid to put it in land preservation, that's what it's supposed to be, a farm.
Yeah, and actually we've found, I know with wind, in some of the, like Texas, for example, it's one of the largest one producing states in the US. And when it's on productive ag land, it only requires about 2% of land. And so I think from the renewable energy perspective, it's ag and renewables are complementary and don't have to compete. But I think trying to develop some of those projects in service of meeting our RPS goals, we've come up against, all sorts of tax increases or zoning changes and land use challenges. And so I think we just want to make sure that this legislation isn't going to contribute to that. So we certainly don't want to stop it in any way or be contrary to the original goal of the joint resolutions from 2002, but just making sure that ag and renewable energy are working together.
Actually, that's local preference on some of that stuff, on local zoning ordinances and stuff. And we always have nuclear, the cleanest of all renewable energies.
We always have nuclear. Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand the concerns that expressed on both sides, but just to be clear, your bill and your intent is not to add any further beyond the 30,000 acre goal. So
That's right. Right. That's absolutely right, Delegate Stein.
okay.
I think there's some background noise out there somewhere. If somebody wants to mute. Okay, so we'll hold this. Maura, let's, I think we can deal with it maybe in uncodified language. I really doubt there's a problem.
It doesn't sound like there's from the bill hearing, and I appreciate you inviting me to the subcommittee meeting today to talk about it. I think uncodified language is a great solution.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Delegate Gilchrist.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. And Steve, we won't forget your program.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. House Bill 992. This is the Maryland Environmental Trust Board of Trustees. And the idea here is right now there's a two-step process to being put on the Board of Trustees. The governor, the president of the Senate, or the Speaker of the House asks people to be a volunteer, and then they have to go and actually get voted on by the board. So basically the Speaker of the House and the president of the Senate are asking for 3 people to volunteer, and then 2 of them are told to go away. And the process hasn't been working. So there were, I think, no questions at this hearing. And so this just means, it just changes how it actually ends up working. The president's going to send over a name, the speaker's going to send over a name, and then we do have an amendment. Delegate Stein?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to move favorable, but you just said there was an amendment.
Yeah, when we discussed this at the board, a number of people pointed out that we have trouble meeting the quorum. Because we have trouble getting trustees, we don't have the 19 members, and the code says 10. So you all received an amendment. It just takes out that the code says that 10 members is a quorum, and it'll just be left up to the bylaws of the board. So if someone would like to move that amendment or discuss it.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, the bill's before us as amended. All those in favor of the bill?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, House Bill 1025. This is the carbofuran bill. I see Colby is in the House, and is there an advocate out there who I don't know?
Yes, this is Mark Sutherland is here.
Oh, Mark Sutherland. Okay. Mark, I don't think we need to spend much time on this. We got a letter from the Department of Agriculture, which the sponsor received. And I understand the sponsor is working on amendments.
Correct.
And so if everybody's working with the sponsor, I see grain producers are out here, and Maryland Department of Agriculture. Anybody want to say anything about this bill and what work is being done to figure out how to resolve it?
I can give you my understanding. In the hearing, it was raised that there was a concern about the role of the Natural Resource Police. The bill allows them to confiscate the carbofuran. And so what we were going to do, I think what the discussion is to clarify that language to say that would only happen during a wildlife investigation, which is what was our intent already. So, and what we heard is that that's okay with the various people that were concerned, as long as it's not a case of transferring, pesticide inspection from agriculture to DNR. It's really just allowing Natural Resource Police who are in the midst of a wildlife investigation to confiscate it, because that has actually been the loophole that's continued to cause the wildlife deaths, is that they were not allowed
All right.
to do that.
Thank you.
Another
Mr.
issue that came up just to complete it was that we wondered if Department of Agriculture still had a program to collect these, and they just said in their letter that they are restarting that program. So there should be something in place procedurally for this thing to work out. So I think we're good in both cases.
All right. Cassie, thank you for your letter. Colby or Lindsay, do you want to say anything about this?
Thanks, Delegate. I would just say that I think with what Maryland Department of Agriculture has now rolled out is not just a carbofuran disposal, but it's actually a pesticide disposal program, which would encompass chlorpyrifos and some of the other banned chemicals from in the past. And so I believe that this, what they're rolling out goes farther than what this bill would do. And I don't necessarily know if the bill is needed now. I think the intent was to try to get that program up and running again. And I would encourage that we go with the more.
I know the sponsor is still working on the bill.
Yeah.
Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So concerning what Colby just said, my understanding is that part of the bill has to do with addressing bad actors who are using carbofuran to deal with wildlife. I wondered if Mark could address that.
Sure. I mean, that's
still
the
needed.
key issue, is that, we're not trying to add to the typical pesticide collection program. We are trying to stop, the deaths of wildlife, including at least 30 bald eagles, from bad actors, people that are using it illegally, because it is illegal for any use at this point. And we believe that they still have an incentive, a profit incentive, to continue doing that unless we actually have this law in the books that requires the stockpiles to be collected and no longer can remain on the shelf.
Thank
So
you.
that would still be needed even with the Department of Agriculture program.
Correct, because the bad actors probably wouldn't voluntarily hand it in.
Thank you.
Any other legislator on this?
Yes,
Charles.
Mr. Chairman, some of this discussion disturbs me. I think the department is moving in the right direction, but it's the fine part of it, of making somebody, a criminal when they have this product. If they have this product back in the corner of the barn that was there in 2009, their grandfather had it and they don't know what to do with it. Right now, it's legal for them to possess it, but they can't transport it anywhere and there's no place to take it. And they certainly can't use it. Fining them is a concern, and continuing to have the DNR police, God bless them, they're good people and they wear nice safety equipment on to keep from getting shot, but they don't know how to handle, a controlled pesticide.
All right.
I think any actions with it needs to be the Department of Ag that has the expertise in handling it.
All right. We will be holding this bill. There's work ongoing. I think we all have a good sense of it. Any other legislator want to say something here? Oh, does James McKittrick from DNR want to say something?
Sorry, I've heard DNR thrown around a lot here and I couldn't help myself but to jump in. it seems like there's folks out there who are representing our position for us. I just want to say for the record, we're generally agnostic about whatever role the subcommittee chooses for the natural resource police in this program. It's not as if, every single investigation we're invited into a barn and an officer sees carbofuran and doesn't know what to do. It's just simply not the case. So if we're totally taken out of the bill, there would be no issue from us.
All right. Well, let's hold it. There's work going on. Thank you all for your input. And I know the sponsor is still actively working with everybody. So, okay. All right, so let's move on to 1267. That's a work group on public water access. Kristen, can you tell us a little bit about this bill?
So the bill establishes the work group on public water access to convene a working group of diverse stakeholders to make recommendations to increase public water access and consider the benefits of public water access on public health and environmental justice. The Chesapeake Bay Trust must provide staff for the work group. An interim report is due by December 1st, 2021, a final report by December 1st, 2022. And then there's a mandatory appropriation in the bill of $60,000 to cover the cost or to support the duties, the Chesapeake Bay Trust in supporting the work group.
Okay. I mean, I think as we all know, the policy is to hold work groups, task forces, other similar bills till the end, and then see how many we have and how many make sense, because we can only do so many of these each year.
Mr. Chair.
Delegate Ruth?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
I cannot see the hand raise function, so if you wave, it's better off.
Okay, sorry. So I think this is a great bill. I really like it, but there's a long list of people on the work group, good variety, diversity. But one group that I did notice was not on there was DNR, and it seemed like they should be included in this.
So Delegate Ruth's correct. There's one state agency that was identified as a member of the work group, and that's the Secretary of the Department of Transportation.
Could I ask for James's thoughts on that?
Yeah, thank you very much, Delegate Ruth, for making that observation. The subcommittee felt it appropriate. I certainly feel like it would be appropriate for DNR to be a part of this, especially when the work group does deal a lot with fact finding along our programs, whether it's the the Waterway Improvement Fund or program Open Space. So it would be kind of odd to be left out of the conversation. And thank you again, Delegate Ruth, for noticing that.
All right. So we'll hold this one. Kristen, are these your bills?
I think that's it for me.
Did we cover everything we needed to note, you think?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Do you think we hit all the highlights? Is there anything else we should mention about these?
I do not have anything else noted. I think you hit the highlights for sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Kristen. Is Patrick out there? Oh. The hand wave helps. Okay. Patrick, we've got 4 of your bills. Okay, the first one is snare traps, House Bill 579. Last year, we did pass this out 22-1. and it went to the floor and it passed out of the House. And then this was a COVID casualty. Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering if the counties that are specifically called out in this bill were consulted about whether they wanted to be included in that. I did follow up with, I just checked with Baltimore County. Baltimore County was not aware of this bill, and they said that they really, didn't have time, that the time to review it by today would be too short. But they did say that if we could hold it another week, that they could put it through their review process and see if they wanted to take a position on it.
Well, I mean, we could do that. It's not really, that portion of the bill is sort of statewide. I think we all have.
It's not statewide. It's not statewide. It's only 6 counties that are being made possession, not, where possession is being made not illegal. And then Cecil County is being removed completely. If Cecil County wants to be removed, that's fine. That's their choice. But if this bill is specifically calling out 6 counties by name, then those counties should have some say in that.
Anyone else on this? Delegate Layman? No, Delegate Layman and Delegate Stein?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I agree, representing one of those 6 counties that's affected, Prince George's. I guarantee there is not a knowledge of this, and this should be a local bill. If Cecil County, doesn't like the laws around snare traps, let Cecil County do a truly local bill. The rest of us, should not be caught up in this. We have a lot of pets in Prince George's County. I have not been able to connect with Rodney Taylor, who's our head of animal management, but this is a legitimate concern for pet owners and for, parents of small kids. We talk a lot about unintended consequences. Everybody knows, well, what that term means. This is a very serious example of something with harmful unintended consequences to 6 committees that are 6 counties, that are like hostage to this bill.
Delegate Stein, did you have your hand up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know last year we passed a version of this bill, didn't make it to the Senate, I guess. Patrick, were these same counties in last year's bill?
This bill is making statewide what is available now in 17 counties. It's not adding counties. It's saying this is the statewide rule. Possession is not against the law.
Oh, okay, but how does this bill compare to what we passed last year?
It's the exact same bill.
Exact same bill. Okay, thank you.
Delegate Ruth?
It's not as simple as saying it's taking a policy that's 17 counties and making it statewide, because the 6 counties that are being added are counties that have already obviously expressed an interest in prohibiting snare traps, because currently the law specifically says 7 counties prohibit snare traps in any form. So those 6 counties have obviously taken a position at some point that they don't want snare traps. And so now to add this back in as an exception without the counties being able to take a position doesn't seem right.
Delegate Ruth, do you have any objection to the Cecil portion of the bill?
I have no objection to the Cecil portion.
Okay, well, we better hold it and see where people are on it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And I'll work with Baltimore County on that.
Okay, House Bill 615 is the Prince George's Sunday deer hunting bill. We're going to end up holding this one too, because at the hearing, the delegate was talking about a possible Prince George's amendment concerning safety zones.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a quick question about this bill?
Yes.
Was the sponsorship of this bill transferred when Delegate Jackson left and went over to the Senate? Who's listed as the sponsor? Because I did not think this came out of our delegation yet, or maybe I'm wrong.
We have a delegation letter on this bill.
And okay, so now it's treated as a delegation bill, so Delegate Jackson's name is gone off the bill?
It's sponsored by the Prince George's County delegation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna hold this one also. All right, Patrick, House Bill 800, we have some amendments on that?
Yes, they should have been provided to you by Teresa. I know they were. Basically, the amendments honed down the required information that's required to be included on the app. They take out aquaculture enterprise zones, which we currently have a bill in front of us to eliminate. Alter the reference to fixed fishing devices to registered pound net sites. Take out the clam bars because there are no maps of clam bars. They move all around. And I was going to suggest that we probably might want to move out the Yates bars too. I don't think they have any relevance to boaters or fishermen, and if any of the committee members know otherwise, or James, please let me know.
Was that in the amendment that was passed around?
Can I ask who submitted the amendment?
We drafted it up based on DNR's comments.
Oh, okay. So now DNR supports it?
I can't speak for them. They're not against it.
James, does DNR support it now?
We're not against the bill, Delegate.
Okay. So that means you'll develop it?
We'll have to. This bill passes.
Did y'all receive the fiscal note stuff that I sent out from the gentleman that created the one from down in Virginia? I just wanted to make sure everybody got that.
Yeah, the Delegate Clark got information from Virginia that estimated that we would have to develop 2 different apps for 2 different types of phones at a cost of about $20,000 each in the first year and about $5,000 each to maintain it rolling forward. And on top of that, DNR has indicated that in their upgrade of their licensing system, they'll probably be able to do this as part of that. So I think our fiscal note is pretty much settled.
Yeah, I'm okay with the amendments.
Delegate Ruth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As the committee IT expert, I did want to say that there are cross-platform tools that you can use to develop the app and then port it to different platforms. That would be up to, I guess, DNR whether they wanted to use that or not. But it is possible to do the primary development and then, port it to different platforms. I also just wanted to say I love this bill.
And
Thank you.
okay, do we have a motion on the amendments?
Move favorable.
Women have a question? Or is her hand up from previously?
Oh, I'm sorry. Does somebody have a question?
Mary
Do we have
Mary
a
has
second?
her hands up. Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Second. Okay. All those in favor? Oh, Delegate Stein?
No, I was just going to do a second. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've motioned it.
All right. All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So the bill's before us as amended. I suppose there are places in the Chesapeake Bay where there won't be a signal. Does that bother anybody? All right. The bill's before us as amended.
Move favorable as amended.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So that is favorable with amendments. Okay, that leaves House Bill 991. And the idea here is, I think we see some people in this Zoom meeting to help us understand House Bill 991. I don't expect to do any voting on 991 today, unless there's a surprise out there. Patch, I suppose we ought to start with the amendments that DNR or Park and Planning Commission have been working on and explain what the bill would be with those amendments. Who would like to take that on?
I'd be happy to volunteer Team DNR.
Okay,
so
so James, let's hear from DNR.
With me, so we have Marion Honnessy, who's our FCA expert who put these amendments together. So I'll turn it over to her.
Okay, so we're discussing the bill amendments. So basically the amendments, sorry, let me get the right page. Okay, so basically the amendments were to remove the word preservation to make it conservation, because preservation implies that the trees will remain forever as standing and not be treated as a living thing that they are. And we prefer to conserve forests than preserve. The land will be protected because of the requirements of easements for protected area under mitigation, FCA mitigation. The other change that we're proposing is to basically add language that would, in a way, grandfather in existing forest retention mitigation banks that are already existing, already have been in effect since 1998 or so, so that people who've already started the process with their properties to get into the banking, and those people that are already done with the county review process and are selling credits would be able to continue getting approval through the review process and selling credits in the future. So basically that was added.
I'm sorry, well,
Yes.
what's your name?
My name is Marion Honnessy. I'm with the Maryland Forest Service. I'm the supervisor of urban and community forestry. And I've been overseeing or dealing with Forest Conservation Act since September of 1992.
Welcome to the subcommittee.
It's P. Hager.
Yes.
Okay, and I didn't mean
Oh,
to.
I'm sorry. Yes, the name. I'm in my assistant secretary, my boss's office, to do this because I am lucky enough to have the oldest computer in the building that does not have audio.
I was guessing you weren't Pete Hager.
Well, thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chair. This is P. Hager, Phil Hager, Assistant Secretary. So Mary and I
I
are
didn't
sharing
mean
the
to cut
same.
her off, but go ahead. Go ahead, Mr. Secretary.
I just was introducing myself. Marion's going to be doing most of the talking on this, but I just wanted to let you know so that the mystery of the P. Hager was explained.
Thank you.
So basically what the amendments do is maintain the status quo of what has been happening since 1999 with forest retention banking. The reason that the bill was submitted by the County Park and Planning Commission was because there was in the fall, the Office of the Attorney General had come up with an opinion that banking is only under FCA, banking means planted trees can be sold for credit, not existing forests can be sold for credit. So that's the intent of this bill. What we are trying to do with the amendments is to make sure that those people that are already in the system, already in the pipeline in the county of review process, and those that have gone through, spent all the money to become banks, can recoup their benefits from selling the credits The major benefit is we still get existing forests retained in large blocks, but this would allow the business to continue. So that is what this is doing, this amendment.
Thank you.
Marion, you might also want to mention the 2-to-1.
Okay, so basically what we're doing is, as we've always done, again, maintaining the status quo. If you planted for a mitigation bank and someone was coming to you as the landowner, the developer is looking to purchase credits. If it's a planted bank, every acre of mitigation you need to do, you just have to purchase 1 acre from the bank. So 1 acre you need for mitigation, 1 credit is purchased. This forest retention banking, as we've been running it, as the counties have been running it since 1999, for every acre of mitigation you owe under FCA, you need to purchase 2 acres of existing forest. So I don't know if that means it's a 1-to-2 ratio or 2-to-1 ratio, but you need to purchase twice as much as what you owe. All these banks, both planted and retained, the existing forest banks are put under easements for long-term protection. They are not allowed to be developed. They are protected.
All right. I see Delegate Ruth has her hand up, and I think Delegate Clark had his hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry, it's been a long day and my brain is fried. Clarify again on the amendment. You said it would grandfather in existing banks. Would that not allow new forest banks?
And this, so to back up a little, because of the Attorney General's decision, based on the opinion date, you cannot do retention banking. So existing forests being used as banking was no longer permitted as of the date of the opinion. So those people that had already gotten approval from the counties and were selling credit had to stop. And those people whose land was going through the pipeline through the county review process are now in limbo. So the bill would cover those through the grandfathering language, but the bill itself allows existing forest banking to continue as it's always been done. The original bill did not capture those people that were kind of in the pipeline. It created a new mitigation banking system from the adoption date forward. So what we're trying to do with the amendment is capture those people that have credits to sell in their existing banks and those that are in the pipeline undergoing county review.
So under the bill, then new forest banks would be allowed under the bill?
Yes. Yes.
For the amendment. Okay. Thank you so much for clarifying on that. I just, it's like I said, it's been a long day. Thanks.
Delegate Clark.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for your explanation. I think that's a good amendment to help these folks out. Now, let me clarify one thing for me what Delegate Ruth just said. So if I decided next week that I wanted to do a forest mitigation bank on my property, at this point, I could do it or I won't be able to do it?
As of today, if you wanted to protect the existing forest on your property and sell credits so that you're able to retain the land in forest and make some money off it by selling credits, you would not be able to do that today. You could last September, but you would have been stuck in the pipeline because of the Attorney General's decision.
Yeah. But going forward, this will get me out of the pipeline.
Yep.
But let's say a year from now or 2 years from now, somebody wants to do a bank. Will they still be able to do it, or are we just grandfathering in what's in the pipeline and what's already out there?
The bill itself creates the program. So basically what we've been doing since 1999, that the AG's office, the OAG, determined to not be written in statute, puts in statute the status quo of what we've been doing.
Okay,
The amendment allows those people that already have banks and those people that are stuck in the pipeline to continue.
Until this bill takes effect.
Basically, they're all now, everyone can continue doing what they've been doing since 1999.
Okay, and we can create more of them if we want to.
Yes, we can.
Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
Okay, I think we ought, Delegate Layman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm starting to get a lot of emails about this bill. I think it wasn't on a lot of people's radar screens, and now it is in Prince George's in particular. So I want to know just a little bit more, because I will do my own research, but I want to know a little bit more from someone about the context of the AG's opinion. Brian Frosch is a busy man. I cannot think he came out of nowhere to opine about how this Forest Conservation Act is being administered and, its successes and its failures. So I want to know what prompted this. And I don't understand the nexus with Prince George's County, with Mr. Gardner and Prince George's kind of taking a lead role on this. I want to be clear on that. That probably explains the angry emails I'm starting to get about it. So I would like to understand that.
I think maybe
I can try to answer if that helps.
Thank you. I think we ought to hear a little bit from Park and Planning. Mr. Gardner or Ms. Borden, maybe you can help respond to Delegate Layman. And I'm also interested in the differences between your amendments and DNR's amendments.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. First of all, thank you for inviting us, and I can jump in there. Let me talk about the amendments first. I think the amendments are precisely what they're so similar to the amendments that we were proposing. It's really a tomato kind of issue. I think I think either set would work, and I'm perfectly comfortable to say that the DNR amendments are functionally what we were hoping for as well. The initial bill should have had a grandfather provision and a retroactivity that would cover the people who are in the pipeline. So I think that we're completely in accord on all of that. So I think the amendments are the DNR amendments are fine.
Could you address Delegate Layman's issues?
Sure, I can say. Well, I can't speak for. We've spoken to the folks from Anne Arundel County who run their program, and based on what I understand from them, it was simply that they were looking at revamping their program. Their county attorney rendered an opinion about whether or not using existing forests were permissible in a tree mitigation bank. Their county attorney concluded it was not. And to make sure that they were in accord with the state, they asked for the opinion. I think it was as simple as that. I've heard nothing else than that, so I'm just passing that along. With respect to why Prince George's County is involved and why our agency, somebody needed to start this bill, and because it's gonna have an impact. It's already having an impact in our jurisdiction in Prince George's and in Montgomery County, because so many people were counting on the ability to use these as one of the mechanisms to do mitigation. That's for a series of complicated reasons that it's so important. But one of the reasons is that we literally have we literally have stream restoration projects right now that also have forest mitigation requirements. And to the extent that they were counting on using these credits from other, forested properties, those projects are literally being, on hold right now. Other folks who, may have a small mitigation project to build a house on a lot that's ready to go, they were also planning on using these. And in Prince George's County, the fee, one thing that I don't think that we got across as well as I would hoped during the testimony, in Prince George's County, because the program is actually more stringent about when you can use a fee in lieu. That is to say, it's not permissible in a lot of circumstances that it may be permissible in other places. As a result of, not having these forest mitigation banks available, we're literally seeing projects that are going to have to start asking for exemptions or just, essentially a moratorium, because the number of acres available has now essentially evaporated. So I guess the point that I'm making to Delegate Layman's question is that it's having an impact on the ability of projects to go forward. And we're also going to see that impact on public projects going forward. We're going to see that impact on school projects. We're going to see it everywhere. So that's somebody
Okay.
needed to do it. And we
Okay.
thought that we would at least get the ball rolling.
So a quick follow-up on that to Mr. Gardner, and thank you for the explanation. After you mentioned Anne Arundel, I do remember in the context of Anne Arundel passing what I think was a pretty strong forest conservation law under Stuart Pittman, that question came up. So that prompted this review by the AG. So I get that. But why not take you talk about all these existing projects or projects now on hold. Why not take your, approach that you are in the amendment of a grandfathering posture? Why not let's be serious. We try to be serious in this committee. I'm not suggesting you're not trying to be serious, but we all say we're committed to the environment. We say we're trying to combat global warming. We know all the, positive things that trees do. We've known that for decades. And now on top of everything else, we're battling, catastrophic weather events with horrible flooding. We ought to be serious about planting trees and not looking to banks, of trees and buying and selling credits when we're taking down, mature trees to build, whatever new strip shopping center or apartment complex. And, I get that stream restoration and other, more bucolic type projects could be affected too, but those are not the bulk of what we're talking about. We're talking about development, good old fashioned, residential, commercial, industrial development. And that's what this is about. So, let's be clear about that. But we need to be doing these things to be more, progressive and more proactive instead of using an AG's opinion as, as an excuse to not do better on this front.
Perhaps Chesapeake Bay Foundation would like to say something at this point.
Much, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the opportunity. The hour is late, and I think that I will just try to lay this out as simply as I can. Before the AG's opinion, there were two different ways that counties were doing forest mitigation banking. They were letting folks preserve existing forest, and they were letting folks intentionally plant forest mitigation banks. And those banks could be sold as credits to developers seeking to cut down trees, to build houses, to build shopping malls, et cetera, et cetera. There was concern from the environmental community because we have consistent net loss of trees in this state. Most, if not up to 2/3 of the trees we're losing are being lost to development. There was also conflict between the practice, what counties were doing, and the state law. Enough so, such that one of the counties asked the AG for the opinion. After the opinion, there is one way that counties can do forest mitigation banking. Forest mitigation banking lives on, but the way that they can do it is the way that was described in the Forest Conservation Act, with the intent of stemming some of the loss of trees. That was the intent. And that was what the law stated. What the law states is that now going forward, if you want to do a forest mitigation bank, then you have to plant the bank. You go, it says on the Montgomery County Planning website now, anyone who owns an undeveloped acre or more of land can establish a forest conservation bank in Montgomery County. And there's two different ways. And then the way going forward will be to plant the forest. A new forest can be planted. These forest areas are permanently protected. So that's the way forward post AG's opinion. And that's what we think needs to be done. Now, there's been a lot of discussion. I think 75% of the discussion is about projects in the pipeline, banks that have already been created. Let's not stop development that's already en route, that's already approved, permit, et cetera. I'm speaking for Chesapeake Bay Foundation, but I believe also on behalf of our partners, we are willing to accept grandfathering everything that's been done because we get it. There was a lot of conflicting practice among the county governments, and we get grandfathering. But going forward, we do hope for a stronger law. Thanks.
Thank you. I see a lot of hands raised, but let's do this. We've got, we haven't heard from a builder yet. Lori, would you just?
Yeah, I just want to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for members of the committee. I know it is getting late, but I just want to be clear. We're talking about preserving trees and existing forest, which we've been through a lot of these conversations over the last couple of years. And I think the consensus is existing forest is the most valuable forest. And by not being able to preserve when we put these into the mitigation banks, those are preserved forever. And I think that's a really important piece of this and that's important. We've always talked about these being the most important forests. Or the most important trees is the existing forest. So that's the point that I think we want to make sure we get across. And I don't want people to think that we're replanting on site first and foremost. We're saving trees on site. Secondly, we're replanting on site. This is not like the first option. This is way down the line. We're trying to preserve as much as we can on site. So this is not something that happens on every project or anything like that. And I want to make sure everybody understands this is about preserving forests, existing forests. Planting new trees is great too, but I think we all agree that existing forests, and once you put it in the mitigation bank, it's preserved forever. It's there. So
thank you,
Chair.
Thank you. We have a lot. Let's go to the Vice Chairman of the committee, Delegate Stein.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The more I've thought about this bill, the more complicated it becomes to me, or at least the answers aren't as straightforward. I realize we're talking about development, both private development, but also public development. So it's possible that in addition to private development, not to downplay that, we might also be talking about schools or other sort of public infrastructure that might be at risk. But having said that, I guess I've got two questions. First is for Adrian. You mentioned how you're hamstrung in Prince George's County with the use of fee and lieu. Do you know about other counties that are similarly hamstrung? And I guess my second question is a broader one, and this was raised at the hearing. We all know that as a result of Delegate Healy's bill, there is supposed to be a study of the Forest Conservation Act, a number of aspects, including forest banking. So does anyone have any suggestions about how legislation should take that into account?
Well, thank you for the question. The first question, Vice Chairman Stein, and I would say Prince George's County is not the only place where fee and lieu and as a matter of fact, in the actual existing statute, fee and lieu can't be offered until on-site options are exhausted. So it's not essentially unique in that regard. But there are absolutely other counties where fee and lieu is not universally available. We'll get you more information on that. I think, in fact, with one of the changes that Anne Arundel County made with the last iteration that Delegate Layman did, limited limited the use of fees in lieu as well. So I think the answer to that is it's not just Prince George's for sure. It is not just Prince George's. I'm just using that as an example because one came across my desk today. So.
And Dana, Mako is here.
But I honestly wasn't aware that at least in some counties, the use of fee and lieu is so restricted that it's not an option. So
well, it certainly does vary. Absolutely. It certainly does vary. As Mr. Gardner was saying there, some counties have some similar restrictions to Prince George's County, and I'm happy to send some more information on that along. Some jurisdictions are concerned that this would push more into fee and lieu. And I did just want to say that, this isn't the first thing that we look to. Using existing forest for a bank, there are many other ways. And at some point we arrive at this option that we're deliberating. And what we're talking about here is preserving trees at a 2-to-1 rate in perpetuity. So we feel, at least Mako feels, I'll use this opportunity to comment, it's a reasonable accommodation for projects, including public projects. Department of Public Works, do utilize forest mitigation banking of existing forests. So I'm happy to send some more information to you. Thank
Great.
you.
Delegate Ruth?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I wanted to ask if Robin could address the question of fee in lieu and your thoughts on that. That we're here specifically, we're hearing that fee in lieu could be, that if this isn't passed, that county could, push developers more towards that fee in lieu as opposed to just planting new trees.
Well, in every county, there's a list of priorities, right? And certainly in Montgomery County and others that I've looked at, the priorities would be preservation of trees on site, replanting of trees on site, replanting of trees off site, perhaps then replanting of trees off site and outside of a watershed. There are so many options to be pursued prior to fee in lieu, and hopefully the county codes capture those options as required priorities. So you would not be able to, as a developer, skip to the fee in lieu. There are many opportunities, I would say, for replanting off-site in these counties based on information that we have, even just looking at, for example, stream buffers, available acreage from the Department of Natural Resources that has done a study statewide showing acreage into the 750 acres I'm looking at now in Prince George's County of buffers or areas in the critical area that could be planted. So hopefully, no, it would not be possible to skip to fee in lieu.
So I'm sorry, just Mr. Chair, can I, one more thing? First of all, I just want to say I am truly conflicted on this bill. I can see both sides of it. And, Baltimore County supports it, which is something that I have to take seriously. I'm not going to automatically support it because they do, but it's definitely, a consideration. And we've heard about this, we talked about this report that is supposed to come out. And I just wondered if, Mr. Chair, I spoke to you briefly about this earlier today, if it's possible to put in a sunset where we pass this and we can take a look at it maybe 3 years down the road to force us to take a look at it after that report comes out, just, to the plans that are already in place to go forward and relieve that pressure, but, to force us to take another look at it.
Well, there's a lot to think about here, and we should probably wrap this up, but we haven't heard Ben Alexandro. I see you out there. Can you just talk for like less than a minute?
Sure. One thing we want to keep in mind is the fact that Forest Conservation Act really needs a comprehensive reform, as we've been saying for years. It's very complicated, but in a lot of cases, you can take a 100-acre forested lot and you can chop down 66 acres without having to do anything because you retain the others, etc. Right? And then even if after that, often you can chop down every 4 acres, you only have to replant 1, etc. So we really need to get a comprehensive fix and look at this. And the study that was passed was supposed to help inform that. That being said, we do see and hear the concerns of those saying, for those that had already gone and bought a forest and were really close to about to do this bank, and then it's suddenly the rug's pulled out from under them. We do understand that, so we would be amenable to basically a grandfathering piece of this for those that are already in the pipeline, already looking at before January 1st or something like that. But for going forward, it'd be really helpful for us to make sure that we look at the Forest Conservation Act comprehensively.
Okay. Any other legislators on this? Ms. Hennessy, can I just come back to you for final thoughts?
Sure. I just wanted to make sure everyone was clear that the bill that created the study does list 7 deliverables that this technical report is supposed to deliver on. the department is expecting there to be future discussions on various aspects of that report. One of the deliverables is how mitigation banking, as it's been implemented since the beginning, how it's working and if it's working. So mitigation banking is one aspect of the technical study. So I'm not sure whether having a sunset language is in a way necessary, since the technical report will discuss it. And then we can move forward from the results of the technical study to see where to go.
Okay.
I don't know if we want to hamstring ourselves now, not knowing what the technical study is going to say on this topic. But again, I mean, here's an opportunity, just sort of a last point. Here's an opportunity to protect large tracts of existing forests that give us so many benefits, from climate change to greenhouse gas reduction, the animals, everything in these large tracts. It's very rare that you can find very large tracts of forest that the landowner is willing to give up his development rights to allow an easement. So I'd rather not lose that opportunity to protect this. Chesapeake Bay Foundation has said over and over again that they want large trees protected. Here's an opportunity to do that. So,
how long did you say you've been working on this?
I was the original person to implement this in Southern Region, in the 5 counties in Southern Region in 1992.
Well, we are glad you're here. Delegate Stein, would you like to make a motion to hold the bill, or do you have anything final to say?
Sure. I move to hold the bill. And if Mr. Chairman, I can toss out another idea to the mix, perhaps there could be uncodified language reflecting the fact that we anticipate this study to come out, well, hopefully within the next couple of years, and that the legislature anticipates reviewing forest mitigation banks at that point. Anyway.
Okay. We covered a lot of ground there. I think we got everybody in, except we didn't let Andrea talk. And
that's
so
okay, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. Adrian did a great job.
Thank you all for being here. It's a complicated issue. All right, have a good rest of your evening.
Thank you.